Yes, now we have a guest from Switzerland, the world's most popular control panel, Plesk, and we are going to invite Lukas Hertig. He's going to talk about hyperscale clouds and hyperscale competition, and I'm inviting him to the stage. Alkışlarınızla kendisini sahneye davet ediyorum.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Happy to be here in Turkey and happy that the crowd is still so big compared to you're already on the second day. I'm going to talk today a little bit about hyperscale cloud and how the market is changing. As you know, I'm coming from Plesk, and as you know, the same family is cPanel and SolusVM as well, so we are all one. We are all together, so I know we have many customers, partners here that we are working with. A bit of background on myself. I've been about 16 years in the industry. I have been many times here in Turkey, especially about 8-10 years ago in the beginning of the hosting market. And I'm so happy to be back now and seeing such a big crowd. Besides doing business development and our strategic partnerships, I'm also running a few advisory roles, for example, in the blockchain space. It's more a bit of my toy project. I'm based in Switzerland mostly, but also I'm pretty much in the plane, I would say, and going to different events and so on to meet partners and friends. So, what I'm going to talk today is what we would call the new normal. What does that mean? So, as you know, the hosting industry definitely had many good years, you know. I think all of us are doing very well being a hosting company or helping the hosting company, but on the other side, you know, you could say, okay, everything is awesome, but I'm not so sure about that. I'm going to talk about today, you know, because things are changing. Maybe not so fast yet here in Turkey, but when you look at Western Europe as well as the US and the global market, things have changed already, and it's quite tough because the industry is in a bit of a turmoil, I would say. So what does it mean? First of all, we have a huge market consolidation. Since many years, all the large companies like GoDaddy or Endurance Group, but also in the medium-sized level, but also private equities, they are buying all the companies they can find and consolidate them. I will tell a little later why they're doing that. The second thing is to actually be competitive in that space. The capital requirements are absolutely crazy. You know yourselves, building a data center is super expensive, and if you want to do it on a global scale, not only locally or multiple data centers, super expensive. The same is for CPAs, or cost per acquisition, meaning basically the cost to acquire a new end customer. They are as high as never before. The average that you would need to spend usually is about 30% or 33% of the customer lifetime value, but we see hosting companies spending up to 70% of the lifetime value of a customer to actually acquire a new customer. Pretty crazy, I would say. The reason is it's so competitive. So what has worked yesterday doesn't actually work today anymore. Like, give me an example. What did hosting customers, you know, your end customers, what do they care about? Uptime, price. I've heard the word price this week a lot of already. That Turkey is very price-sensitive customers. I know that. Price is important. Uptime and support and service. So uptime, price, and support. So that's what customers care about, right? Well, I would say yes, they do. But the whole hosting industry is focused only on these three things: uptime, price, and support as a USP. USP in that perspective means unique selling proposition or unique selling point, how you actually differentiate your business. So that means if you look at hosting offerings and hosting companies, they're kind of looking all the same, right? So this is why we use that the stormtroopers, they are all looking the same. Everyone is doing the same thing. So everyone is solving the same problem. And today, together, the hosters actually raised the bar to enter that market because it's so competitive. And the three things, support and uptime and price is actually just the entrance ticket. And what was the cool USP or unique selling proposition in the past is just the basic entry ticket to the game. And honestly speaking, when I look at the hosting industry at a global scale, the innovation has pretty much died out. Everyone is doing shared hosting like we do since 15 years, VPS hosting in the same way, we are doing dedicated hosting in the same way. It's all the same. We charge 2 years contracts with a setup fee in many cases. But you know, we didn't do any innovation. And we actually left the door open to what we call mega hosters, also known as Hyperscale Cloud. So when you look at Amazon, Google, Alibaba, Azure, DigitalOcean, Mohan who was just speaking, I would count him into Hyperscale Cloud as well. They have what it is, and I will talk about that. And you know, when you look at this graphic, you may not see all of it, but when you look at all the number of servers in the market right now, the hosters are here below, meaning they're not growing anymore. There is nothing happening. Some of them are even losing. Who do you think is the orange one here in the middle? That's actually DigitalOcean, one of the fastest growing hosting companies in the world, because they do something else, something different. And the blue one, the one that is actually outgrowing everyone else since many years, is Amazon. We call it the dark side also, probably. So, but then the hosters say, you know, but Amazon, it sucks on price, it's very expensive, it sucks on uptime and support, right? And the hosters think like, oh, you know, we have nothing to worry about, it's all gonna be fine. Yeah, they really suck in this part. Why? So how are they stealing the clients of the hosting companies? Good question, right? So AWS, I'm using this example because they are by far the largest hyperscale cloud provider in the world. They use a special shady mine trick. So why are they not focusing on uptime, price, or support? Big question. Simple reason, everyone can deliver uptime, price, and support, right? It's a commodity. Commodity also means like gold, gas, whatever kind of things that are commodities. It's all called commodities. It's all the same. So it's a basic, that's just part. So when you look at what hyperscale cloud providers sell is a scale. And I don't mean a marketing mention to say we scale you into the cloud. It's real scalability from a technical perspective. They sell you geographical reach. You mentioned also DigitalOcean or AWS. When you took them all together, it's crazy geographical reach that you can have with them. Product breadth, it's amazing what kind of products that some of these hyperscale cloud providers provide. And combined to it, they have a great innovation. In my personal opinion, Amazon Web Services is in the whole IT market, not in hosting only, in the whole IT market, #1 in terms of actually providing innovation in the market. And they do that because they know the hosting companies, in a traditional way how we know them, they don't know how to do this innovation, right? It's normal. But I can tell you already now, the old school hosting companies, they will feel the pain, you know? Because I would say hyperscalers would eat them for breakfast. And the key thing is either you go big or you go home, you know? It's very difficult to compete, there is no way. But that's the new normal, how it is, and we have to actually deal with it. So when we go back to the hyperscalers or hyperscale cloud, just some examples, you know, Amazon is like more than 50% market share in infrastructure as a service in 2018. It's absolutely crazy. The hosters are kind of nowhere, unfortunately. If you look at the growth numbers, even if the growth numbers that are expected from 2017-18 going to 2022 are actually flat, getting a bit less, even in 2022, it's still expected to grow 46% year over year in the hyperscale cloud for the largest providers. So I have never seen any of that growth numbers in the hosting industry. As I said, they're flat. So companies in the hosting industry are flat in revenue or actually even declining. So if you want more information on the research part, I can highly recommend you to look at Structure Research. They are a boutique research company that focused a lot into hosting industry and hyperscale cloud, and the comparison of these kind of markets as well as the expectations. So, clearly the fastest growing segment in our history we ever had when we look at the hyperscale cloud. And we left it to a bookshop, right? You remember that Amazon started as a bookshop, just selling books. And all the cloud came very much later. So, how have we let this happen, you know? The industry has actually grown up, you know, it's kind of normal. In the meanwhile, when you look at the hosting companies, they're thinking like, oh, you know, we will be fine. Our customers respect us, we have a very good relationship to customers, we have the local touch, we are providing loyalty, blah, 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 blah. Always the same things, let's stick what we know, you know. I have that discussions every year on events like this where people say, Amazon is my competitor, and I think it's wrong. So, hosters think they stick what we know, right? So, difficult to say. I think Peter Drucker, who is a well-known economist and has influenced a lot of the modern economy, says also that we think you're wrong. Because the greatest time in danger, in times of turbulence, is actually not the turbulence, but to act with yesterday's logic, you know. That's like Amazon is my competitor. In my opinion, that's acting like with yesterday's logic. The winners will be people who actually break the mold and change the way stuff is done, you know, who create a new normal, or disruption, how it's called in new terms. So, I strongly believe future hosters have to become MSPs, or managed service providers. I have talked to some of you already this week, and many actually came to me in the same request, like how do I become a managed service provider? And also verticalize, specialize, and become even a multi-cloud management company. So future hosters are not going to run any infrastructure. They will manage infrastructure, you know? The rest of the hosting companies will probably sell their company to someone who has some scale, or transform into a productized, subscription-based managed service provider. Per Microsoft, the investment required to become a managed service provider in the medium size is about $1.5 billion investment to transform your company. And the point is, hosters and the traditional IT channel, you know, system integrators and everyone else, agencies, web agencies, larger agencies, they will be all the same. There will be some form of a managed service provider. There is an exception, distributors, they may die, but we will see. But the hosters say, I want to be in control. So I want to compete over price. It's easy, you know, but honestly, I think it's a bit the lazy side of the force. Because just competing over price will never be possible anymore in any of the future. So, well, let me say it that way. Becoming an MSP is not really new to our industry. And also, reselling is not new to our industry. When you look at what hosters do today, more than 40% of our industry is already reselling someone's infrastructure or services or products that are outside of our control, right? So, hosters are already a reseller and already manage third-party products. So, let's give some example, you know? When you look at power, IP transit, data center gear, network gear, servers, operating system, software, etc. Are you producing all that? Probably not, right? So when you look at the details, I think the most hosting companies are somewhere here in between. Between the data center gear and the operating system, I think that's what most hosts are taking care of, and the rest, they actually resell, like they always did, or manage. And so, yesterday, I would say, or still sometimes today, but yesterday what the margins were in data center infrastructure, network infrastructure, server infrastructure, operating systems. But honestly speaking, I think it's going to move up into applications, management, business processes, adding real value, solving real problems, because that's going to be profitable for you. And you know, this technology has reduced the transaction costs. It has made it easier to create and access assets, and it's cheaper and easier than ever, and therefore possible on a much larger scale. You can actually use these hyperscalers to help solving your customers' problems. So, what's next? Well, I give you some examples from a very traditional hosting industry. One and one. There is two hosting companies that are doing approximately the same thing. There is GoDaddy and there is one and one, and they are both two of the largest hosting companies in the world. GoDaddy has announced that they are moving their whole infrastructure over the next few years to Amazon Web Services because they're building a layer for SMB customers. One and one, in the newest structure research report from Q4 in 2018, they said the same. Standalone cloud infrastructure services are not likely to succeed in the market if they are not hyperscale, possess a very unique value proposition like DigitalOcean, or are extremely focused and targeted, such as serving a specific vertical. Second, raw services without much value add is increasingly difficult, and providing the managed services is crucial. Key point, even a large company with millions of customers in the SMB space says they become a kind of a layer for managed service, based on managed services. And infrastructure will not be as important anymore. So I think that's an interesting reference, two of the largest hosting companies in the world in the SMB space. But I think for you as a channel partner, I see that now as an IT channel thing. It's not the hosting thing or a system integrator thing, it's for the IT channel. It's key that you guide the end customer, very important. Customers don't understand Amazon Web Services or even parts of your services. You need to guide them. You need to control the value chain. You can work not just with Amazon, but maybe also with Azure, but other companies, maybe combine it with some of your infrastructure and that way control the value chain. If Amazon has a good offering for certain infrastructure right now, but your end customer sits on Azure, you can actually offer your customer to migrate over from Azure to Amazon because of cost efficiencies. You will get back in control. Choose the partners who need you, you know? I mean, there are hyperscale cloud providers that are more open for partnerships and others a little less. I would say generally, all of them are open for partners. They know they need them, but I think it's important that you choose those that really need you. And the other thing is, monetize every interaction that you have with your customer to make sure you get to a profitability point. Last but not least, this is a bit a complicated slide and I will not explain everything what is in here. But the important part is selling baseline infrastructure, being a generalist is not the way to go. I think you need to move up the food chain in terms of productizing your services in a way that they're profitable. You need to make sure that you focus on certain verticals where you become a specialist. If you have 400 dedicated servers and you don't know what your customers are doing with them, talk to your customers. Ask them what they're doing with them. When you find out that 30% or 50% are in healthcare, maybe you should think about specializing on healthcare. If another part is doctors or lawyers, maybe you should go after doctors and lawyers and specialize in that direction. Specialization in that perspective on a multi-cloud independent, infrastructure independent story will help you to redevelop very profitable services again, that you're not charging by hour, that you're not charging by day, but with nice productized packages. If anyone wants some guidance, there is also a very good book about that. It's called Technology as a Service Playbook from the Technology Services Industry Association in the US. They explain you every bit on how you actually develop that from an economic perspective and from a financial perspective. But I think this is the opportunity that we have. You need to become a specialist and make sure you transfer from your company as soon as possible, because if Amazon is coming to Turkey and if Google is coming to Turkey, if DigitalOcean is coming to have a data center in Turkey, you guys will have a lot of competition. And if you prepare right now, I think it's the right time to look into that. So I think there is still an opportunity for the hosting companies, right? So I think that's like the future where we need to look at, and I think you can totally do that. It will be possible. It will be not easy, but it's possible. And you know, when we look at Peter Drucker again, the best way to predict the future is actually to create this, and I'm convinced all of you can do it. And actually, you know what? It's actually also a good thing for the environment, because infrastructure will consolidate, even if it's going global, it will consolidate, and there will be more opportunities to do that in an environmentally friendly environment. So if you have any questions, you can find me on Twitter, you can also find me on LinkedIn, more than happy to connect you. As I said, also everything in regards to Plesk, C-pedal, Solus VM, other things, more than happy to support you. And otherwise, I could take a few questions, but I have just like 2 minutes, if anything. Otherwise, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.